Back in September of 2013, I dedicated the entire month to covering the most important anime television block in history, Adult Swim. From introducing classic anime that have indelibly shaped the medium to an eagerly waiting audience, to sharding out animated atrocities that had no business escaping Japanese soil, Adult Swim, for many of us, were our anime childhoods. While the name and block began on September 2nd, 2001, it wasn't until February 23rd, 2002 that the block came to Saturday nights and became strictly anime. For the most part. While the block lives on, restructured with a Toonami coat of paint, in my heart of hearts, it will always be Adult Swim. And it's high time we revisit these memories by covering one of the very first titles they ever broadcasted, Tenchi Muyo.
Viewer strongly cautioned. The following review contains opinions that are unsuitable for people of soft minds and thin skins. I'm talking to you, Dave. You know what you did.
Before the movies, before the television show, or the second television show, and before the many specials, there was only one Tenchi in town, Tenchi Muyo Ryo-Ohki. A 1992 OVA that sort of got away from its creators and became so popular that sequels and expansions were created to meet demand. On the surface, it sounds like what any anime studio strives for, a franchise anime whose demand can never be met. But, as we'll soon learn, success can be its own enemy. However, before we get into the blood and guts of Tenchi, I think I need to clear the air for a moment. I'm operating on the assumption that you have seen my previous two episodes on Tenchi, Tenchi Muyo in Love and Daughter of Darkness. So if you haven't seen these episodes, please catch yourself up. Secondly, I'm fully aware that Tenchi Muyo debuted on Toonami rather than Adult Swim, and by all rights should be looked at during a Toonami month. But for me personally, catching the relatively unedited version of Tenchi on Adult Swim was how I was introduced to the show, so it's inexorably linked to the block for me. Besides, this was the only Tenchi show that was shown on Adult Swim, and Tenchi Universe and Tenchi in Tokyo far outweighed Ryo-Ohki's presence on Toonami, so if not here, then where? So with that all out of the way, let's get back to our favorite put upon every man in anime, Tenchi Masaki. One of the most interesting things about Tenchi Muyo as a series is that it was the first in a franchise that wasn't based off an existing manga or light novel. So to see the first episode of Ryo-Ohki is to literally see where it all began.
Tenchi, don't tell me! You were so hard up you slept with a mummy!
Get a life, clown!
And apparently, Tenchi began as a punch-happy jerk. Yeah, if you're at all familiar with Tenchi as a character, then you know just how big of a heel turn this is. He's always been portrayed as a kind, if easily pushover kid who seems to always be on his back foot when it comes to heated social situations. In fact, that's the reason why in Daughter of Darkness his lashing out at Ryoko was so shocking. He simply wasn't a guy who lashed out. Period. So to see him portrayed as a petulant little teenager borders on the surreal. And yet the entire existence of the Ryo-Ohki universe hinges on him being an unlikable little prick. He steals his grandfather Yosho's keys to go somewhere he wasn't supposed to, and inadvertently releases an imprisoned Ryoko. Simply put, without Tenchi being a mischievous, impulsive punk, we don't have a story. But Tenchi isn't the only one who is acting completely out of character. The first episode also introduces us to Ryoko, who has one hell of an introduction.
Let me go!
Knowing what we know now about Ryoko, this is a very striking and hauntingly beautiful scene. But, going in blind, this introduction takes a turn for the confusing. As Ryoko catches up with Tenchi, she reveals that she wants revenge for being kept prisoner for centuries, and releases her pent-up frustration on him. Oh, and homage more than just a few scenes from Star Wars.
I gotcha! Hey! No fair cheating!
What? Give me a break!
This sudden turn from a loving, if not creepy woman to a kill-crazy maniac is one of the more whiplash-inducing character turns I can recall. There's just no through line between these two modes, and the fact that she stops only when Tenchi cuts off her hand, again, thank you Star Wars, only to pop in again to be roomies with him is jarring, to put it lightly. By the second episode, both Tenchi and Ryoko begin acting like the characters we know, but then Sasami and Ayeka enter the picture. The beginning of Ryooki is set at a breakneck pace, and it doesn't let off the gas for a moment, introducing us to Ayeka and her sister Sasami, as well as the Guardians, Asuka and Kamadake, just as soon as the second episode begins. Ayeka has been looking for Ryoko for centuries, and the fate of her half-brother, Dipshit McRuins other people's lives. Yosho. Now that Ryoko has resurfaced, her hunt finally comes to an end, retrieving both her and Tenchi. Revisiting these first episodes really shines a light on how nebulous and ill-defined the series began. Not only did Ryoko and Tenchi begin as completely different characters, but even Sasami went through a metamorphosis. We know Sasami today as one of the exactly two voices of reason within the dysfunctional family of Tenchi and friends, always insisting that her sister and Ryoko keep the peace and otherwise being a productive member of the household. But at the beginning?
Go in there and get her head ornament, is that right?
That's right.
But why should I? I mean, it does belong to her, doesn't it?
Just get it.
She's Dennis the Menace with a white polecat we never see again. I feel like there was an established character for both Tenchi and Sasami that they wound up fulfilling as the series went on, but somehow or another, the developers couldn't figure out how to use them to drive the plot forward. Couldn't figure out how to get a milquetoast teenager to break a seal and unleash Ryoko on an unsuspecting world? Just change him into a trouble-loving brat. Can't figure out how to get Tenchi out of a prison? Just turn Sasami into a trouble-loving brat. Really, the only character in these first two episodes that has any character consistency is Ayeka, and truth be known, the evolution of her relationship between her and Tenchi is one of the strongest aspects of the entire first season. She starts off as a hoity-toity princess and has to adapt to living on Earth, and then learns about the kind of guy Tenchi is.
Oh.
Oh,
I'm going back outside.
outside?
Yes?
Outside it must be cold.
This touching and romantic scene is only slightly undone by the fact that Ayeka is Tenchi's great half-aunt.
Here on Earth, you may think it odd to marry your brother, but on Jirai, it's not.
Hashtag Space Alabama. You shut up. And you, I think the only reason why this is normal on Jirai is because your entire family has 15 million people in it. And they're all alive. Remember my joke about the Jirai family tree not forking? Yeah, I couldn't be more wrong if I tried to be. Keeping track of every thing in the Jirai family tree is a task better suited for a Florentine monk than any sane person. Still, as the series rolled into the third episode, it started being, well, the series we know it for. The characters began to find their groove and played off each other so well that they alone could drive the story. Many an episode in the series essentially boiled down to the Masaki household just living their everyday life, and it's perfectly engaging because of how strong and well-defined the characters are, and how they interact with each other.
You're just a spoiled princess. Is that the best you can do?
Go ahead and boast. It's what you do best.
Which is disrupted when the anime throws us an actual honest-to-God villain. Even though he was teased at the end of the fourth episode, the episode by which Mahoshi was introduced, Kakuto really does just come in and shit in everyone's apple pie. But awesomely!
Oh my. You really frighten me. You see, I've heard much of your heroic episodes in the past. Now, I hear you're overworked and your performance stinks. Oh, I see you have the sword. But that's the king's property. Wave it around like that and you're going to hurt yourself, young man.
Don't get me wrong, he is an effective and absorbing villain, but the series progression treats his introduction like going over a speed bump at 100 miles an hour. It's obvious that Kaguto was meant to have a more direct role in the series, or at least a more tangible one considering his power over Ryoko. It's revealed that he has the ability to take over Ryoko's body through one of her jewels, and that explains why she went on the warpath and wreaked havoc, which caused Yosho to fight her off in the first place. And it's hinted that she was still under his control when she first met Tenchi, and that was why she attacked him. But that can't be true because in the flashback where Yosho fought her, he took her 3 jewels and embedded them in his sword, the same sword that Tenchi uses here. So where in the hell did that 4th jewel come from? It's moments like these that make me think that during the development of Tenchi Muyo Ryo-Ohki, they had these set-piece moments that they wanted in the story, but they didn't exactly have a way or mean to connect them all through an actual narrative. Several times throughout the anime, it retcons itself into trying to make sense in the broader picture, and sometimes it retcons itself just to clumsily continue the plot.
Don't need this anymore. Uh-oh. How do I get back to my normal self? What's that? Oh, I remember.
Yeah, we never see him get that ring, nor is it ever seen or brought up again, just so Tenchi could give Ayeka a seed to regrow her tree. Sure, there wasn't a way to get this across without backhanding the audience in the face. I know most of this review so far has been negatively tinged, but I can't stress just how much Ryo-Ohki manages to overcome these sloppy points of writing. Regardless of how it began and certain sticking points that dragged the first season down, it manages to come out a fairly fun and lighthearted adventure. It can even be touching at points, like when Ryoko reminisces with Ayeka about watching Tenchi grow up and being unable to physically comfort him when his mother died.
Grandma.
Though the dub fucked it up by calling her his grandma, and this still further muddies the waters of why the hell did Ryoko attack Tenchi if she always loved him, but it's still an effective scene. Even Mihoshi, who is otherwise annoying with her constant whining and stupidity, comes across as more endearing than she has ever been in any iteration of the Tenchi canon. It's a low bar. So, with such a promising OVA, not to mention a profitable one, a second season was demanded and met, but the cracks in the foundation were beginning to show. First of all, the original director of the OVA and co-creator of Tenchi Muyo, Hiroki Hayashi, stepped down as director for the second season, to be replaced by Kenichi Yatagai, and this change is thoroughly felt. Compounding matters was that the other co-creator of Tenchi Muyo, Masaki Kajishima, was now put in charge of conceptualizing the story for the second season, even though his role in creating Tenchi was character design and planning in the first season. He wasn't a writer, with his only other writing credits belonging to future Tenchi projects and porn. Not exactly the safest hands to hold your story. You can immediately tell something is wrong just by the way the show looks. The animation looked cheaper and sloppier.
I really think you need to practice walking, Ryo-Ohki.
And episodes started to become more sitcom-y, like when Tenchi and the girls are tasked to take care of Tenchi's baby cousin. Yup, all the standby jokes are there. Difficulty changing diapers, falling asleep at inopportune times because the baby keeps waking them up. Oh, and who can forget the classic rub-a-dub-dub, what's that floating in the tub?
Huh?
It's no big deal.
Come on, you walk through fire, you walk through walls, you rip holes in the roof, and you can even fly!
Very good reasons, but not good enough.
Anime Abandon will return in a moment.
Stop, please, you can stop now.
Now answer me.
Anime Abandon now continues.
While I do appreciate that this particular episode dives into Washu and her past, the fact that it had to be built on such a shaky concept of an episode is something of a motif for the entire second season. The character writing is still as strong as ever, but now it's in conjunction with really poorly thought out stories. And this is no more apparent than in the 9th episode. You see, someone had a bright idea and asked, what if we killed Sasami? Yeah, the little girl who only wants to cook yummy meals and play with Ryo-Oki? Yeah, she did. But wait, it's okay because her blood mixed with the sacred waters of a goddess and now she's fused with her and she's alright. Why did we have to kill her again? This whole story accomplishes absolutely nothing, as we already know who Tsunami the goddess is, and it's not like this notion is ever touched upon ever again. You'd think that such a development would have huge repercussions for Ayeka, finding out that the sister she thought she knew had died a long time ago, but no, she just considers Sasami her sister no matter what. And while this is a nice thought, it doesn't really dig into the notion of Sasami being a goddamn homunculus. But at least we get to see a little girl lying in a pool of her own blood. Nothing has changed, nothing comes out of it, it's just a completely wasted story. Actually, it's worse than that because now it opens up a whole new slew of plot holes. You mean to tell me that nobody noticed that Sasami has new markings on her forehead in all this time that passed? Or how about the fact that this is supposed to be her mom? Even though we meet another woman at the end of the season that's supposed to be her mom too. I've never seen an anime fuck up character continuity this badly. But no story was more pointless or more infuriating in the second season than when Ryo-Oki became a real girl. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that Cute and I don't get along with each other, so you would think that I'd want to crush Ryo-Oki with a goddamn cinder block. Well, no, I don't. I don't hate Ryo-Oki, the Cabot thing that turns into a spaceship because anime. I just tolerate her for the most part. That is, until she fused with a massive masses and became a furry.
Meow, 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 meow.
Ryo-Oki, what a good trick and so cute.
Worse yet is that she apparently can shift forms, but never returns to her adult, humanish form, and instead putzes around as a little girl. You could argue that she's just emulating Washu in her habit of always using her young form, but I'd argue that she does it for moments like this.
Meow, 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 meow.
And who can forget the worst person in the entire Tenchi canon, Yosho. Surprisingly enough, Yosho manages to go through Season 2 without much in the way of presence, especially when compared to his role in Season 1. As much as I have issues with the character here, having used the excuse of fighting Ryoko to never go back to Jirai just to avoid royal politics, at the very least he wasn't doing anything I hadn't come to terms with. Until this happens.
Come, Yosho. How long will you stay in your disguise?
Huh? I can't deceive you, can I?
Nobody here has any idea as to what I really look like.
Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's bullshit. Why in the world is this even a thing? Why can't he just be old? No, he's gotta be a young man, else his centuries-long vacation on Earth will be spoiled. It's not like he's trying to fool anyone either. He lives in the fucking woods. And besides, if the people in this world can't notice these skyscraper-big spaceships hovering over them like the Black Omen from Chrono Trigger, what makes you think they notice a guy not aging? And despite all of these inane decisions and drooling plot lines, there's still some good comedy here. While the last episode was a red-hot poker to the taint in terms of Yosho and his awfulness, the introduction of the extended family on Jirai was plenty charming on its own. I like the fact that Ayeka and Sasami's real mom is an overloving, overprotective hen who'll give you the Medusa death glare if you so much as not even play into her mommy game.
She's calling her Mommy!
Nobody mocks my little Ayeka. Are you understanding me?
But I think what I like most in this episode is Ayeka's father arranging her a new husband since, you know, Yosho. And he turns out to be the poofiest, most camp warrior this side of Howard from Fatal Fury the motion picture. I mean, wouldn't any father want their daughter to marry an obviously gay man so they're trapped in a sexless marriage for the rest of their days?
Ignorance is your weakness. You don't seem to understand that you are no match for me. I don't think you want to go through with this. It's simply for your own good.
You can't stop me. I'm just too powerful for you, sailor. And the way the episode just hammers away at the fact that Tenchi is without any agency in the situation, down to being roped into a duel for Ayeka's hand in marriage, is about as perfect a comedic plot as can be for a Tenchi episode. For as flawed as Season 1 was, Season 2 was way worse. And yet despite that, it still came out the other end a very enjoyable and watchable show. But then Season 3 happened, and all hope was lost! 8 years after Season 2 was released, we got the continuation we've been led to believe we've all been waiting for. Surely Season 3 would never meet the same fate as other decade-long absent continuations of established properties like Samurai Legend Musashi, Knight's Journey into Dreams, or Star Fox Zero. Finally, our questions will be answered. Questions like, who the hell is Tokimi? Why is Tenchi able to use Lighthawk energy without a ship? And how much bullshit can we possibly cram into a single season? This is, by far, the worst continuation of an anime I have ever seen. It's not like they didn't get Tenchi, or they just wanted to go into a different creative direction with the series. It's that they had an open contempt for not only Tenchi, but fans of Tenchi too. I can't even list in how many ways Season 3 sucks, since it just permeates every aspect of the show. Everything from just how it looked, to the slapdash introduction of a new love interest, to a complete cock-up handling of the ending, which just dick-whips you in the eye with how sudden and lazy it all is. I can't think of one good thing Season 3 did. But I can tell you the worst, most unforgivable things it did. 1, it fucked up Kagato. Yeah, remember that cool-as-hell villain that for a while you earnestly believed killed Tenchi?
Stand back, Ayeka!
Is that a term of affection, or do you just not like me?
Even when he dies, he still has a line to demean and belittle Tenchi. Obstinate right to the fucking end.
Tenchi. Same name as the master key. Well done, Tsunami. Tenchi can't be copied. Splendid plan. Give one boy.
Yeah, that cocksure, malevolent son of a bitch. Turns out he's the male half of a clone that's split into 2 genders, and was created by Washu, because Washu is insane, and is also a goddess with amnesia. Fucking wonderful. 2. It wasn't funny. A lot of problems that Ryuoki has can be forgiven by just how likable and funny the characters are, but by Season 3 the shenanigans of the Masaki household had long since worn out its welcome, and the shtick feels forced and grating. 3. It ruined Tenchi's mom. A lot of the pathos that Tenchi has as a character is rooted in the fact that his mother died when he was very young, and though he doesn't dwell on it, it obviously affects him. In Season 2, he comes across an old kimono of hers and he hangs it up to remember her. That it later led to Ryoko accidentally ruining it also provides Tenchi a rare opportunity to be human and angry for once. The memory of his mother is one of the most integral parts of what makes Tenchi, Tenchi. Too bad Season 3 revealed that she's awful! Yeah, turns out his mom goofed on him all the time and wanted to play mean jokes on him, even after she died. She convinced everyone from his dad to his granddad to play along with a lie, just so she can have a laugh at Tenchi from beyond the grave, I guess. Why in the world would anyone do this to a little kid?
What's wrong with you two? You think this is funny or something?
No, it's not what you think at all, Tenchi. There's a good reason.
What possible reason could there be for making a joke out of my mother's death?
Personally speaking, I find this to be a completely rational and character-building means of raising a child. Thing is, I can can see how this can be funny. A boy growing up mythologizing his dead mom, and then she turns out to be nothing like how he imagined her. But it's not an issue of her being a terrible person, it's an issue of her doing something terrible to Tenchi for no reason other than to amuse herself from the afterlife. This just taints all the memories that he has for her, and ruins genuinely touching moments in the first season. And finally 4, and while this isn't exactly the anime's fault per se, it's still a huge problem that can never be fixed. No Petrea Burchard. I'll go on the record and say that Petrea Burchard's Ryoko is one of the premier role actor combos in anime dub history. Her performance ranks up with the all-time greats like Steve Bloom's Spike and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn's Major Kusanagi. And considering the scripts she often had to work with and the early troubles of dubbing...
Tell me, just exactly what makes you call a pretty young lady like me a monster?
That she was actually able to perform as an actor is truly commendable.
Kagato, Kagato, you have stolen the one that was most precious to me. And I will make you pay. You will pay!
Unfortunately, Petrea Burchard decided to no longer act in non-union projects, which made her unavailable to pretty much every anime that made its way over here. It might have been for the best, because then that means she would have had to take part in what is easily the lowest point in the entire Tenchi canon, but there is still a part of me that wishes she were here. Recently, an announcement was made that a 4th season of Tenchi Muyo Ryooki was being made, and it's due in fall this year. To which I can only respond with, why? I mean, there's no way it can be worse than Season 3, but the tale has been told. There is nothing left in the Ryooki universe to explore. Tenchi is the linchpin of the universe because 3 goddesses got a bug up their ass and decided to meddle where they ought not meddle. Where the fuck do you go from there without casting Life 2 on the horse just to whip it back to death again? Will I watch the 4th season when it comes out? I don't know. But if I do, it won't be because I think there's room for a story here. I just want the show to go out on a better note than it did. Ryooki, judged as a whole, might be the worst iteration of Tenchi, though that distinction is highly contested. But it's also the one that is closest to me personally. It's a silly show about a guy who gets a bunch of space princesses, police officers, and a homunculi to want his peen. You'd think that a show with such a premise would die in the crib, but you'd be surprised what likable and memorable characters can do. I'm sure we'll touch upon Tenchi again sometime in the future, but for right now, Adult Swim month continues, and we're gonna look at a show that just could not escape the shadow cast by its own director. Till next time. Long live your Lord High Regent Sage! Long live Benetopia!